We finished up last video implementing our empty state view for when the user had no followers. In this video, we're going to implement our search functionality on our collection view. So when you're typing in the search bar, you get the nice animations like you see here in the design, and we're going to implement that using a UI search controller. So let's get started. So here in our follower list VC, the first thing we want to do is create a function called configure search controller. So func configure search controller. The first thing we need to do is initialize our search controller. So let's create that. Let search controller, and I'm gonna have to tab these over, go UI search controller, initialize an empty one. And then we need to set the results updater delegate. So search controller.results updater. I'll explain this in a second. Ah, didn't tab over far enough. Thought I planned for that. Equals self. So let's option click into the search results updater here. Well, it's going to give me an error. I don't conform to that. So anytime we conform to the delegates, we're going to create a new extension here. And this is going to be like our search extension. So extension follower list VC, and it's going to conform to UI search results updater. Results updating, sorry. And we get the error, does not conform to the protocol. We're missing the stub here. We want to add the protocol stubs here. So update search results. So essentially what this is doing is it's letting the view controller know, like every time I change the search results in the search bar, it's letting me know like, hey, something changed. This is where a lot of our code's going to go. And then you have to, set the delegate here with self. The next thing we need to do is set the placeholder value. So search controller.search bar. So the search controller, it's like the view controller has the search bar. So that placeholder equals, not self, whatever you want the placeholder to be, search for a username, just to let them know. And then now to get this to show up, we need to do navigation item.search controller, right? Because the navigation item can have a search controller. You notice that search controller was optional, right? Let me do that again. Search controller. You see here, it's optional because the navigation item may not have a search controller, but we're definitely going to set that equal to the search controller that we just set. So, and let's make sure we call this. So call configure search controller. Now there's going to be no functionality yet, right? Because all the functionality is going to happen in this update search results. But let's test it to make sure we actually have this showing up. And like I said, there's going to be more code in here in a second, but we want to take baby steps here. So let's run this and see if we got our search controller like actually showing up. And we get the error because I have the placeholder in file. So, okay. Now let's run it and see what we got. So SALLN 0400, get followers, and I have the search bar. I can click it. We have a cancel button. See, you kind of get all this for free, right? This is the built-in search controller. Like I didn't create the cancel button. I didn't do these animations. This is the default search controller. Remember, in a navigation item can have a search controller like we just talked about right here. So that's like the default behavior. So we have it showing up. We have no functionality. Actually, let me run it one more time because I want to show something that I might have missed. Because it can like obstruct the view if you want it to. So let's search. You see how it like lightly grays out the view? You see it's a very faint like black overlay. It's like a black overlay with like almost no alpha, right? It's very, very faint. Look, see, cancel. See, now it's full white. It puts that little like shade over it. I actually don't like that. I would rather my collection view still look the same. So you can do a Boolean flag here to get rid of that. If you like that, keep it. If you don't, enter this Boolean here. I want to show it off. And that Boolean is search controller dot obscures background during presentation. Of course, it messes up my equal signs. Again, if you find this super tedious and ridiculous, I get it. You don't have to do it. I'm going to do it. Equals true. So, no, equals false. So now when we run it, the collection view won't change the look of it. You won't see that faint black overlay. So now you hit search and the collection view looks the same. I just think that looks better. Again, subjective. All right, so let's stop this. And now we need to do a little bit of code here in our update search results. Because again, this is getting called every time I type a letter essentially in the search bar. So basically this search controller that gets passed back is gonna have a search bar.text, which is in there. So this is where we're gonna like actually filter the array and update our collection view here in this function. So there's a couple of checks we wanna do first, right? We wanna make sure we actually have text in the search controller.text bar, right? So guard, whoops. We're gonna basically create our filter here. Guard let filter if I can spell, filter equal search controller dot search bar dot text. And you see this is an optional, so that's why we're using the guardlet. So now that we have that, we also want to check to make sure that the filter isn't empty, right? Because we don't want to search on an empty string, right? I mean, anytime the search bar goes back, we don't want the screen to go blank. So we do dot filter, I'm sorry, I'll type this out first. Filter dot is empty else. And then we're just going to return here. We're not going to like pop up an error or anything like that. We don't want to annoy the user. So basically what this is saying is but hold on, we want to check to make sure it's not empty, right? So I put the bang in front of it. I wanted to type that out first to show the code, but we want it to make sure it's not empty. So again, what this line of code is saying here, whoops, I have too many of these now. Basically we're saying, hey, let our filter, let that equal the text that's in the search bar, whatever that is. If that's 1 letter, if that's 7 letters, whatever that text is, that is our filter. But then once we have the filter, we're also going to check to make sure that filter is not empty, right? So basically, if search bar.text is nil or it's empty, we're just returning out of this function. We're not going to update our search results. But now that we have our filter here, we need a new array. We need a filtered array, right? Because as you see here, our collection view, that is our array of followers. Well, what's left in the search results, we're going to filter that array of followers based on this filter, right? So if I just type in S, we're going to filter out all the S's. So we need to create a new array of followers called a filtered array. And we're going to be switching back and forth between our array of followers and our filtered followers to show the correct one. So let's create that array. So var filtered followers, and it's an array of follower. And we're going to initialize that as an empty array. So now that we have our variable filtered followers, back down here, we can do filtered followers equals, here's where we're setting it, followers dot filter. And here's where we're using some, if you're not familiar with like filter, map, reduce, I'm not going to go down the whole rabbit hole on all of them right now. I'll link to some source material in the notes for this video if you want to dive more into filter, map, reduce. But there's like a long way to write this with this closure and all this stuff. To be honest with you, I've never written it the long way, so like I don't even know how to do that. I always do the shorthand with this, and you may have seen this before, right? Where you do $0, 0. So let me actually write out this line of code, and then I'll explain it, because it's going to be weird explaining it as I go. But once the whole line of code is there, it actually reads quite well. $0 dot login. So $0 represents, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me just type it out. Dot login dot lowercase, right? Dot contains, we want the string protocol because we're going to be passing in a string, which is essentially the filter. Filter dot lowercase. Okay, so I know this may be weird looking. Let me actually get rid of this because I have too many of these now. Okay, so if you've never used like filter, map, reduce, this whole $0 and in a closure, this may look weird to you. This is actually pretty common syntax if you start using filter, map, reduce a lot. And again, this is like the shorthand way to write it. There's another longer way to write filter, map, and reduce. I don't know. People always just use it this way from what I've seen. I've never even written the long way, like I said. So let me explain what this line of code is doing, because if you're kind of new to this may be like, what is this? So what we're doing is we're setting our filtered followers, right? We're doing followers.filter. So we're going through our follower array, like our 100 followers, and we're filtering out based on our search bar.text filter that we created up here on line 126. So this $0, what it represents, anytime you're doing filter, map, and reduce, it represents the item. So you're essentially iterating through the array of followers. So you're going through all 100 followers. So $0 represents the item that you're on. So for example, this is the follower. And then, you're going to go through all 100 of them. So as you go through the 100 followers, you're going to check the login, which again is the username essentially. And you want to lowercase it just to like even everything out, meaning like you don't have to worry about if the person got the casing correct, right? Like that doesn't matter. So we're going to lowercase the filter, lowercase the login. That way we get matches. Casing is irrelevant at this point. So again, we want to check to make sure the follower's login, and if you lowercase it, contains our filter. And again, our filter is lowercased. So essentially all this is saying is check the login name. If it contains whatever our filter is, throw that into the filtered followers array. So after this runs, we're going to go through all of our followers, and now filtered followers is only going to have anything that contained our filter. So basically the search functionality. So now that we have an array of filtered followers, we need to update our collection view. So remember we have that. We have the update data. Now, you see, I just call update data. If I go to update data, it's using the followers array right here. Well, okay, so we need to change our update data to take in an array of followers. Because again, sometimes we're going to use our normal follower array. Sometimes we're going to use our filtered follower array. So I do on, and then it's a followers, what we're going to call it. And it's going to be an array of followers that we're going to pass in. So now update data is flexible enough to take in an array of followers that we're going to pass in. So down here in this update data, we're going to have to update the first one too. Update data on filtered followers. So now we have a collection view with the new array of filtered followers, and it's going to update it. But we have update data up here as well. So we want to do update data on self.followers, because up here we want to do like our actual follower array. The only time we're using the filtered follower array is when we're actually we're updating the search results. I always like a little space right there. So again, this function real quick, we are creating our filter by taking the text out of the search bar. We're making sure it's not empty. And then we're creating a filtered followers array by filtering our existing list of followers based on the filter we created. And then we are updating our collection view on the filtered followers. So this should work if we run it. All right, SALEN 0400. Cool, here's that. Now we start typing, I'm just gonna type S. There we go. A. There we go. L. Okay, we have no SALs. SAM. There we go. So you see the search is working. Here's a little bug though. Watch. Cool. I mean, I can like delete this and it'll do that and go back to that. But let's do SAM again. So now here we are. Now hit cancel. I'm done searching. Oh, I just lost all our followers. Wait, what? We're in a weird state right now. So what we want to do here is when we hit cancel, we want to go back to our original list of followers. So we need to do something on the cancel button action. So in order to do that, let's stop running this. We need to conform to the UI search bar delegate, because again, the cancel button's in the search bar. Remember, delegate is listening to certain actions. So to do that, let's go up here, type here, search controller.searchbar.delegate equals self, because we got to say, hey, listen to me. And it says cannot assign value because we don't conform. Down here, we're going to conform to the UI search bar delegate. There we go. Now you'll notice, like, remember I said every extension, every time I conform to a delegate, I like to create its own extension. But I also, so I don't have 10 different extensions, I like to logically group them. Like for example, this extension is the search results updating and the search bar delegate, right? That makes sense to go together, because really the whole reason I create these extensions is to make my code organized and just like compartmentalize things. So right, it makes sense for all the search bar stuff to kind of go in here. So the search bar delegate function we're going to look for is did tap cancel. So if you type search, you see all the methods we get now. So search bar cancel button clicked. So that's exactly what we're looking for. And let's make sure we hooked everything up right. So first of all, let's do print statement, cancel tapped. We're going to print that off. And this is how I usually code. So sometimes when I teach, I'll type out all the code, then test it. But the reality is, it's like usually every step along the way, like I'm testing. And the reason I do that is because it's so much easier to find where the bug is if you're like testing on like almost every step, like not every step, but very often if you're testing the app, it's easy to track down the bug. Whereas if you just coded for 2 hours and then like, okay, let's test my code, and then ran it and it broke, it may be tricky to track down that bug because you've done so much. So again, my recommendation is like test as you're building it. Even though sometimes in this course I don't do all that, it's because it really slows down the pace. But during my actual development, I'm testing very, very often. So anyway, SALEN, I forgot what we were even testing right now. Oh, the cancel button clicked. So cool. We search, SAM, cool. Cancel. All right, so we do see in our printout here, cancel tapped. So everything's hooked up correctly. So now let's write the code. And the code is quite simple. We want to update data on we don't need self, on followers. So basically when the cancel button is tapped, we're updating our collection view, but we're using the original array of followers, not the filtered followers. So let's try that again. SALEN 0400, get followers. Cool, SAM, and we hit cancel, and we go back to our original array of followers. So that's the behavior we're looking for. So that is the basics of our search controller up and running. We're not 100% done. We're done with this video, but in the next video, we're gonna work on the transition from the collection view screen, our follower list screen, to the user info screen. And you have to tap on a cell to go to that screen. So during that transition, we're gonna have to make some tweaks to our search controller to fix some bugs. But after the next video, I believe that's gonna completely wrap up all the collection view stuff. So I know it's been a few videos working on this. It's nice to finally be done with it. And we're gonna move on to the user info screen. Let's go.